My talk is about the Sigma Awards winning story, which is called topicradertexty.org.ua. It's its address. And what we are doing, by the way, you can just scan this link for now, and I will send in comments the URL so you can watch it. What we are doing, we are tracking the topics of Russian disinformation, and it looks basically like this. Please tell me if you do not see the screen. We started with the idea that there are too many manipulative websites, and composed lists of them by training our own neural net, basically. So we do it automatically, and our approach is that there are a few monitoring organizations who read the news, who try to do everything by hand, but it is not enough. So what we do, we try to deal with manipulative news, with disinformation and propaganda, now also including coronavirus, by using machine learning. And that's how now we process around 10,000 of news articles per week. Of them, 3,500 are manipulative, I guess. Let's get back to our dashboard. What it does, actually, we have meta topics. We have a period of time. Now it is a bit outdated. We stopped at November, but we are going to update it, and it will be even better. For example, we have a topic called failed state. It is a very popular narrative about Ukraine, which is sometimes true, sometimes not. For example, about external rule. And we just do the daily aggregation of how many topics, news on a topic there were. Not even the count of news, but the percentage of them in the whole manipulative news flow. For example, we can see the peaks in talks about external rule by pro-Russian websites, just when the Trump scandal about Ukraine was going on. Another one was when Russia came back to the Parliament Assembly of Europe, and so forth. We also create weekly monitorings where we cover more topics in depth. For example, that's how it looks. We have Ukrainian websites now. It's not manipulative news, it's just a reference. Ukrainian manipulative news, Russian manipulative news aimed at Ukraine, and just Russian mainstream sites. For example, coronavirus is just a topic, but it is not so manipulated. Its share among manipulative news, it's not that big. While economic collapse is very popular in Russian media, and so on and so on. While Russians write a lot about IMF and Ukraine. So that's what we do, and we track it to first get people know about what is going on. Second, to inform politicians. For example, one Russian media cited the words of a member of parliament from Servant of the People party, who has told that he reads our reports. It was very, very nice. How do we do it? And I hope this talk will be inspirational for everyone who tries to automate the boring stuff in your job, and who wants to do things at scale and have not only the details, but such a heliporter view of the situation. We crawl a lot of data, and we have a server which is constantly running. So we just crawl news. Here I wrote from 400 websites, but since the last week from thousands of websites. So we are like small news aggregator, not even small, and have now around 100,000 news pieces per day. Some of them are irrelevant, about weather, about celebrities, sports. We don't account them. And we pre-process texts for natural language processing, which includes tokenization, language detection, and other things. So basically, we need to split the words, and we need to give each word an ID for machine to understand the text, the sequence. We do not use in detection of manipulative news kind of back of words approach when we just use the word counts. We don't use the rules in it when we tell, for example, if we have the word I don't know, karate, that it is manipulation or not. Instead, we trained a neural net based on an awesome fast AI model. If you want to go deep in natural language processing or into image processing, computer vision, I strongly recommend you Fast AI as non-specialists. I'm non-specialist as well, because they have awesome online courses and very user-friendly library, which can be used by people who know programming in Python only on the basic level. So we have trained the Fast AI model to detect manipulative news. And our training corpus was composed of nearly 8,000 articles in Russian, labeled by good newsfeed editors. So basically, we asked our friends journalists whom we trusted to have a text and to label it as having emotional manipulation or having flawed arguments or having manipulative headline. We don't work with manipulative headlines now because they are too, it's very subjective. Or whether the piece of news is a good news, let it be. This data alone, the text and the labels, are fed into a model, and the model decides on its own what is manipulative, what is not. So it tries to mimic a few good newsfeed editors in guessing what is manipulations and what is a good normal news we want to read. It is very important because it is impossible to compose some rules or some formal logic to detect manipulation and scale. So this model can now apply the power of course, not the whole, with some error rate, the power of good newsfeed editors to millions of news pieces we process. And for now, we have like 10 or 15 millions of news collected for more than 2 years. How to make topics out of this? Because what we saw was manipulative news, and they used just as raw material to make this one, to track the topic across the time. Well, next we do some very unpopular machine learning approach called NMF, and actually we have K topics. K is arbitrary number. For us, works 50. And each piece of news is assigned a topic based on word similarity. For example, if there are words oil, gas, Nord Stream 2, and so on, then we know that this is a topic about Nord Stream. Some topics are total junk, and we just get them out of analysis. So we do a lot of manual processing of this metrics to compose the topic, and finally assign each topic to clusters, and then just count this news by days, or as in our reports by weeks. So actually, each of these smaller topics goes to one of the big clusters on the dashboard. That's how we do it, and we do it every week. It is a job in progress, and we do it now on a bigger scale. And once again, we are going to update the dashboard. The whole methodology, because I know you're journalists and you're not that much interested in all those quantitative things, maybe. The whole methodology, for those who wants to know it, is in Medium. On Medium of texty.org.ua, you can go by link or scan QR code. Also, I think it is time to start posting your questions, suggestions, whatever interactions to the chat. I will read it.
They're coming already, don't worry.
Okay, I will now concentrate on presentation. Well, I think we deserved to win Sigma because what we did, we actually did a full cycle research of Russian disinformation and just manipulative news in Ukrainian contexts. It is different from what we have in, let us say, in USA, because there is a lot of conspirology and so forth. We have a lot of prepaid materials, for example, by one pro-Russian party. You can see it is mostly in Ukrainian media. It is very distinguishable and boring stuff, but there are plenty of news articles like this and so forth. We are proud that our reports are read by members of government, by parliamentaries, and by international experts. So everything is translated, and the link to all the monitorings is on topic dashboard, which is under update now, and it will come in the mid-April, I think. Also, why it is important? It is important because when we get this neural net to distinguish manipulations trained and published just like a research, our first step, it was very hyped just because there is some artificial intelligence in there. So using it is a good idea because this the way to make people interested, the first thing, and then to automate the boring stuff and to show something that just monitoring organizations cannot show. However, they do another piece of work which is extremely important as well, like manual 100% reliable analysis of disinfo. Then we did a product which is regular. Now we have monitorings each week, and they come on Thursdays, English version on Fridays. So there is less than 1 week lag, which is very, very good for monitoring activity on such a large scale. And it would be impossible had we do it manually. And another thing we did, it is a fake crunch. We did a browser add-on. You can see it in my browser. It tells that we don't work on Google News, but if we go to some manipulative news website, careful, it will be a little bit painful for journalists now. Oops, where it is? It does not work. I'm sorry. I don't know what. Maybe something has broke. So basically, it gives a warning as now that the website is manipulative and something goes wrong. Also, it gives warnings for specific articles after they have been moderated or automatically labeled by manipulative news classifiers. So what we do actually, we have add-on and provide our users real-time warnings about fakes, about too emotional news, about just unqualitative, unreliable news pieces. And that's how we covered researchers and media enthusiasts. We did a product for decision makers, as well as everyone who is interested in disinfo. For example, we of course understand that a lot of manipulations can be harmless and not Russian about, let's say, peace negotiations, but this is a risky topic, and people should know that they are reading about this. You can see manipulations, and we provided a user experience for everyone, basically for just it's not a good word, but lame people, to have just a warning that this news, be careful with it. That's how it is. Now let us look at the chart, and I will be happy to answer all the questions. Maybe about toolkit if you're interested.
Yes, great, thank you. You can kill your cam. Yeah.
Yes.
So, firstly, from Arki, firstly, thank you for releasing the text code base under an open license. My question is how much time it took for human journalists to classify, tag news piece as manipulate or not?
Well, we started this work in 2018, and now I think we are undergoing another. Then there was a kind of revolution in natural language processing when people started to use transfer learning, which is about we train a model on some on some data that is available, which we do not need to label manually. And then we have to label fewer. So we labeled around 8,000 articles, and it was not enough. That's why we don't have the accuracy I'm dreaming of. The labeling took us near 2 months. And since it was just those transition time in NLP, and also I wasn't expert in that by the time. So actually I've been learning a lot that time. It took us in total, this first project, We've Got Bad News, 9 months. Like, it's like a baby. But then we labeled just 2,000 of news pieces where our classifier, the previous one, was unsure. Like, it gives the probability that there is a manipulation between, let us say, 40 and 60%. And those 2,000, they help to improve classification accuracy in a great way. Now there are ways to transfer data between high resource languages like English, let's say, where you have a lot of corpora of already labeled fake news, let's say, or hate speech, transfer to another language, which is possible with all those multilingual embeddings like BERT and so on, very hyped architectures of neural nets. Also, a lot of new approaches in unsupervised, semi-supervised learning are emerging. So now I think it will be much faster. But anyway, if you do it from scratch, I think it will be from half a year at least.
Okay, great. And one more question. Matthew is asking, is this only available in Russian?
As of now, we have it in Russian, and we focused on the Russian model because we have more disinfo in Russian. If you have data, you can train the same thing on English. We tried to do a model in Ukrainian, but there were fewer manipulations by that time. As of now, we have plans to expand to Ukrainian language, yes. And once again, having all those multilingual models, there can be some transfer, of course, with loss of accuracy, but anyway, you forgo annotation of few thousand of news like this. You can try some transfer to another language using new ways. Now only Russian, yes.
Okay, great. Nadiia, there's a couple more questions to which you partially replied. So if you can take a look and reply in the chat. Right now, we are basically on time. So thank you very much for joining us. You can reply by just
Thank you, Jacob.